Hi everyone, got another knife review for you. What you're looking at here is the Spyderco Bill Moran drop point fixed blade knife. I was actually really surprised that I couldn't find any reviews on this knife, and so I just took a chance, went out, bought it from a dealer. This was the show model, and I got it for a really good price because there was a little bit of damage to it. I'll show you in a second. But I was really happy. I was really glad that I took that chance and got this knife, and I'll tell you why in a second. First off, let me just give you a little bit of history. The namesake of this knife, Bill Moran, was an American bladesmith who sadly passed away February 12th, 2006. But even after his passing, the guy is a legend. I was doing a little bit of reading about him. He was the founding member of the American Bladesmith Society. He single-handedly revived the art of forging Damascus steel, and if you were to go to an auction and try to buy one of his custom knives, they go for about 5 figures. That's right, 5 figures. I think he sold a Bowie knife one time for about $30,000. So the guy's a legend. Before he passed away, though, he did collaborate with Spyderco for a fixed blade knife. If the serial number is correct, this is actually probably the first fixed blade knife by Spyderco, just because it has the first serial number designation. So I'm just taking a guess at that. But it definitely is one of the earlier ones. Usually gets overshadowed by some of the other fixed blades like the Temperance or the Aqua Salt or the Day Hiker series. But it's a shame because I think this is an incredible buy. It's probably one of the best values in terms of fixed blades, not just for a Spyderco, but for fixed blades period. And I'll tell you why. Just pull this knife out just to give you guys a look at this. It is, as I said, a drop point design. And actually, let me just pull out the catalog here so you guys can have a look. This is the current 2010 catalog that I just got in the mail. As you can see here, this is the drop point design, and they also have a Bowie blade which has a curved spine. I actually prefer drop point just because I feel that it's a little bit more stable. That's extra little bit of steel behind there on the spine just makes it a little bit stronger. But that's just my opinion. Some people might like the extra. There's a tiny little bit more cutting edge on the Bowie version. The handles are the same for both, and they're basically the same in length, weight, and other functionality. So I think it's more of an aesthetic quality because they both have a lot of belly and they're great for skinning and outdoors purposes. The knife itself is VG10 Steel, made in Seki City, Japan. In fact, from my experience, if a blade is made out of VG10 steel, I think it's probably going to be from Japan just because I think there are certain trade restrictions that keep them from exporting that steel. VG10, I was reading about it. Everyone I talk to loves VG10 steel. It's a high quality, expensive steel. Performs about the same as 154cm or ATS-34. In fact, in a comparison test, VG10 is supposed to perform just a little bit better from the other two. Most casual users won't be able to tell the difference, but it's a very high quality steel. I heard it was developed by the horticulture industry in Japan, basically for plant grafts. Basically, they wanted a steel that was so sharp that it could make clean cuts and not tear and rupture the tissue that they were trying to graft. So that was what it was originally intended for. So it made really good horticulture steel and great for cutlery as well in the kitchen. A lot of really high quality, expensive Japanese cutlery is made of VG10 steel. Another great thing about VG10 is the fact that when it encounters a lot of force, it has a tendency to roll instead of chip, and when the blade rolls, it's just easier to get it back to being sharpened versus a chip where you're going to have to scrape off steel in order to even out the edge. So that's a really great quality that a lot of people appreciate about VG10. You'll find this in not just Japanese cutlery, you'll find it in pretty much all of Spyderco's, most of Spyderco's line of knives right now, just because it is a high quality steel. You'll also find it in, I think Felneven uses that steel a lot as well. They design the knives and then have it constructed in Japan. So love VG10. All the knives that I've used right now, from the Delica to the Dragonfly of VG10, I've just had really good experiences with it. It takes a wicked edge. In fact, I'm not even going to do the thing where I touch the blade. I did that once and I got like a little minor nick, not enough to draw blood, but I was like, ooh, it's pretty sharp. I grabbed a piece of paper and I just touched it with this knife and it just zang right through. The blade itself, as you can see, drop point design, and it is 3 millimeters thick, about 1/8 of an inch. So strong enough for a lot of pressure cuts. I wouldn't baton with this knife just because I like to use my knives for cutting rather than batoning. I would rather use something like, say, an axe or a machete for that. But with this knife, if ever it came down to it in an emergency situation, I wouldn't hesitate to think that this couldn't handle it. The handle itself is FRN, which is fiberglass reinforced nylon, and if you'll see like this section right here, this is a Kraton insert. So here here, and then a little small piece right here at the top. And this is actually like a soft rubbery feeling texture, the Kraton. So that gives you a nice good firm lock hold. I've actually used this knife while wet, and I've used it actually a lot in the kitchen, and even when my hands are greasy and wet, the Kraton really holds well in my hand. Doesn't feel like it's going to slip. The handle itself, I love the flowing smooth lines. Instead of like hard, jagged, sharp, boxy kind of lines that you see on a lot of tactical knives, Bill Moran did an excellent job of designing this to have a smooth contour so that it fits within the palm swells of your hand. It just locks right in there. It's great. I actually have small hands, so this is perfect for me. Someone with larger hands might feel that it's going to come up to here. However, even so, this sharp tip isn't sharp at all. It's still going to feel comfortable. I've had friends with bigger hands hold this, and they say this knife feels really good. Looks like a lot of old bushcraft knives that I see online as custom blades, just from the look of it. There is a generous finger choil right here, and if you really want to choke up on the blade in order to get more cuts, you can actually loop your finger in. Be careful though, don't put any pressure going this way just because there's no guard, and then your finger might slip onto the blade itself. But if you want more control cuts and you want to choke up, there is enough space here for me to put my finger up here on the choil. In fact, the edge right here is just sharp enough, not uncomfortable sharp, but it's just sharp enough that I was able to make sparks easily with a fire steel on here. So if you're going to use this as a wilderness blade, this is excellent. You just put this fire steel here and use this as a striker if you lose your steel. Also, there are these little indentations right here on the handle. It makes it really easy so that if I choke it up, my finger comfortably rests on the handle like so. Just like the little details that were put in the design, this knife is incredible. Talking about the sheath itself, it looks like Kydex, but it's actually not. It's what Spyderco calls Boltaron. Let me see if I can pull out the information here in the catalog. According to Spyderco, Boltaron is a recycled ABS/acrylic PVS extruded alloy sheet material used for making sheaths. It has excellent impact strength and abrasion and chemical and fire resistance properties. The reason I got this knife for such a good deal is this was a show knife, and I believe somebody, you can see here there's like a little bit of scratch. I think somebody was a little too rough and careless when they sheathed this knife, and this knife was a little too sharp for its own good, so it actually took a chip out right here along the outer edge here. So I have to be a little bit careful that when I'm sheathing the knife not to cut out more. So for that I got like a really good price for this. Locks in very solidly, no rattle, holds really securely. I mean, I would feel no fear of like mounting this on my pack upside down with the handle facing down. I will not fear this knife ever coming undone. Comes with the Tek Lok. I've seen versions that come with the Spyderco G-clip, but looking at the 2010 catalog, it comes standard with a Tek Lok. But if you took the Tek Lok out, look how thin the sheath is. I mean, this is just like a really thin profile for the knife. Perfect retention, as you can see, beautifully formed towards the knife itself, and there's different attachment points, so you could probably mount this knife either left or right hand side. The Tek Lok mounts with these Phillips screws, and just to give you a quick look at how a Tek Lok works, basically you have these two tabs, and basically to disengage the Tek Lok you just push on these two tabs and it releases. And then you loop your belt through here, and there's this spacer right here which you can adjust with this tension screw and move it up and down to adjust for different belt widths, and then you can add spacers in here to adjust for different belt thicknesses. And just see if I can give you an idea here how it works. And then the clip just snaps into these two hooks right here. So it's a pretty good design. The only thing I don't like about Tek Loks though is it adds a little bit of bulk. The knife is going to protrude a little bit out from your body, but the knife itself is so thin that it evens out. Other than that, Tek Loks I really like. They're just a really good design, make it really easy to attach your knife to either your pack or your belt or anything like that. Love this knife. I've been using it a lot in the kitchen actually. It makes a great kitchen knife just because the FRN handle, it's perfectly sealed, and it's really easy to clean. I don't have to worry about like handle scales or anything getting inside there. It just feels really good in hand, doesn't feel like it'll slip at all, and it's just comfortable. It's really good. I mean, you're not going to want to use a knife that doesn't feel comfortable in hand, and this feels great. I actually emailed Spyderco, and they were really good about emailing me back. The one thing about this knife is it's not full tang. It doesn't extend all the way into the handle. However, they say that there shouldn't be a problem whatsoever, and I don't think there will be either, just because if you're using this knife, even if you're using it pretty hard, as long as you're not doing something stupid like trying to use this as a pry bar, it should work fine. And the great thing about not having a full tang is you can have a handle that's perfectly shaped towards your hand. So this is the Spyderco Bill Moran. Great option for a fixed blade. I highly recommend it. Check it out. Thanks. Bye.